Okay, good evening, and we're starting a little early at 6:30. I'll call the meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is considering a motion to enter executive session. We'll need two motions if we want to do that.
Motion to enter executive session for legal matters. Premature disclosure jeopardize the town's position under 1 VSA 313 A1, B, F, and A2.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right. So it'll be to discuss the Hannaford's issue. So all those in favor of executive session, say aye.
Aye.
And then we'll need a second motion to do so.
I'll make a second motion to include Renee, Joy, and David Rue, our attorney. Town attorney?
Yep,
Second.
all right. Hello, Mary Lee. We just made a second motion for going into executive session. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And for the broadcast, we're hoping this only takes a half an hour. If there were any actions, I don't expect there'll be any. If there were, we would come out of executive session into public session to make any decisions. So I think we're all set. All right. So we have a motion to come out of executive session by Andrea, and that's seconded by Tom. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Marilee? All right, and just some notes about our executive session was concerning the Hannaford's issue. We have a motion with the court to stay our timeline to make a decision on the town map. It is still pending. There are 4 other motions with the court on this issue. Our timeline requires, without the motion to stay, a decision for commencing the proceedings of condemnation would have to happen on the 14th, by the 14th. So we're not sure if we're going to hear any action on our motion. Right now, the board is looking at possible meeting on the 11th, which is next Monday. We'll make a final decision based on any action from the court. And I think we'll, at that point, have 3 choices. The board could choose to move forward with commence the proceedings associated with the condemnation. The board could decide not to move forward, or if the board does nothing, then the timeline runs out, and in a sense, we wouldn't be moving forward. So we're still, I think, waiting for the court to make a decision, and lacking that, we would move forward next week. So right now, the final decision on the meeting would be on Friday.
Bill,
Yes?
is condemnation the term, or is it,
Eminent domain.
It's
Yeah, thank you.
the term is condemnation.
okay.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I get it.
Okay.
Okay.
I think so. Did I explain? That's good? Yeah? All right. So we'll get moving on with our agenda. That was the agenda item number 2. Number 3, any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda that's posted? I don't think so. And this is an opportunity for public comment on items that aren't on the agenda, or you have to leave right away and you want to say something. Okay. The next item is, and I have to say, this is my favorite thing to do as a select board member is to listen to people who want to volunteer on boards, committees, commissions, and we interview them. But I'm always amazed at when people step forward and say, I want to volunteer and do something important for the town. So we have 3 interviews today, and Nathan's going to be a little late.
Nathan will be later on.
So, so we may come back to the 3rd one, but we have 2 others we'll do right now. And Brett Golan is interested in the committee, in the
Trails.
Trails Committee.
And-
So, do you want to step up, Brett? Yeah. This is your big chance. And we have your, I think, like resume and application in our packet. And maybe you just give us the 2-minute spiel on, I guess, why you're interested in the Trails Committee.
Sure. Well, having lived on or owned a home on Texas Hill for about 30 years, was away in Maine for 4 of those, I've been using the Pound Forest for almost all of the 30 years and go up there a good at least 3 times a week these days. Also got involved originally through the Trails Day and being involved in preparing some of the trails here. And that fits with my own background, where I used to head up a trail crew for the Audubon Society out of state, ran a cross-country ski center at Stowe, and also was on the board of Cochrane Ski Area when they went through major growth, adding snowmaking, doubling trails, lights, all that kind of thing. So I think I have some background in not just dealing with growing infrastructure, but also dealing with some of the challenges when you have an operation that's trying to serve multiple needs and uses, which obviously people, we talk about making compromise, but a lot of people don't understand that means you're not going to get to do everything just the way you want, when you want, all the time. And that's something we certainly have had to deal with at Cochrane's in some of these areas. So I think I bring that background, plus I just love being in the woods. To me, that's my meditation. Just is.
Great. Any particular questions? Well, again, I'm always amazed that. So I've known Brett for I don't know, maybe
Kids,
30 years.
could just,
But I had no idea he had some background in some of this activity. And really, the only question I have is, and this is going to impact how I vote here too. I just say, does this mean you're not going to green up Shelburne Falls Road?
No, it will have no effect on my existing commitment. Not at all.
So I had a question.
Sure.
More just to get to know you better, I guess, kind of a question, which won't impact my decision, but rather 30 years, like you've lived up on Texas Hill Road, you said. Where have you been? Why just now? I know it sounds like, you were with Green Up, but what spurred you to come forward today and want to be part of the committee?
Actually, it was the opportunity that when I joined the first Trails Day several years ago.
Yeah.
And Stuart was just so welcoming.
Yeah, he's a good
and
guy.
bringing me in and just enjoying people, and started participating more and more. And then Lenore asked me since it was an opening, if I might be interested
Sure.
in getting involved. Sat in on a couple of committee meetings and
Yeah.
certainly enjoy the group. And again, just really support everything that they're doing, not just in the town forest, of course, but in the, I've been going to parts of town I've frankly never visited.
Yeah.
I was Levine Hill last June that I just didn't know anything about what was up there and the connections. So it's sort of more something that's been evolving for a while.
I'm always curious as to what spurs somebody to action, because certainly a lot of folks use town forests and trails and have these interests, but aren't necessarily motivated to be a part of a committee. And it's great that there are enough people like yourself who are, and it's always interesting to hear what was that motivating factor, that one thing, and knowing Stuart, I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a good
It
guy.
was a very welcoming
Yeah.
approach to me.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
All right.
I'm saying, I've known Brett for probably 20 of those
Through
years.
kids, yes.
And would welcome him to
Thank
be
you.
part of the committee.
So we need a motion.
So, I'll do it. Brett's looks like a perfect fit for the Trails Committee, so I'll make a motion to appoint him, and I don't have the terms anywewhere. Or do I?
Trails.
Trails.
To the
yeah.
Trails Committee
Yeah.
for,
It's on the website.
We'll pull that up.
Renee, we need to stagger terms better,
Yes.
so I don't know how you want
2030, something like that.
you think I got that much left? Well, thanks, Phil.
Not staggering.
Appreciate that. Vote of confidence.
Alright. So.
Would be Stewart's,
Four.
yeah.
2020.
Should be ending, I think it's Stewart's,
3-year terms.
which would have been renewed in so it'd be 22, I guess.
Sure,
I
yeah.
mean,
So we'd say,
Want to do a term ending on January 1st, 2022?
I'll second.
that's okay with you?
Sign that contract.
Yeah. Any other discussion?
And it's Stewart's spot that he's
Yeah.
taken,
Right.
correct, yeah.
Are there any other openings on the Trails Committee?
to. Yeah, Sue Rustin. is-
Say Sue is, yeah.
Okay. So all those in favor of appointing Brett to the Trails Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Aye? None opposed? Thank you, Brett.
Okay.
Definitely
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it.
Look
Yeah.
forward to it.
So it was 2022?
yeah,
Is
we'll
that
check the terms just to make sure that that's staggered with the other ones.
All right, next up in the hot seat, Will Eggleston?
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
All right.
So, I'm not from here. I am from Texas originally. My family and I moved here last December, a year ago December. So we survived the first 2 winters. So I got 10 and 10. So, but I'm here for the revolving loan fund. I've been in banking for about 20 years. I work at National Bank of Middlebury, just across the street here. So. When I saw the opening there, there was a few openings. Kind of thought it'd be a good fit to, since I am new to the area, it'd be good to kind of have a business sense, what's going on. So it was available, and I emailed Renee a few times, gone back and forth, and I've gone to a few meetings, and it sounds like something that of value that I could bring to the committee. I am a commercial lender, so I kind of have that, I do have the background. I do have customers that, might not meet our terms, but I can, funnel them
Yeah.
the town's away and kind of, make the deal work.
I guess that would be my only question is there any kind of a conflict with your working at a bank and then having,
I talked to my boss about, because initially I thought the same thing. I said, is there going to be, and as long as I'm up front with them and everybody knows what's going on, there's no conflict of interest. So, yeah.
And you're a resident of Charlotte?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And there's
And-
nothing in our bylaws
Yeah.
that say you have to be a resident of Hinesburg?
For the revolving loan fund committee, I don't think so, but
I'm not sure that
I
there
don't
is,
think
so-
there is anything in there. We have,
I personally, assuming there is, and I don't think there is, this seems like a good fit to me. Somebody, who's got experience in this. You've been to a couple of the meetings, so you sort of know, what you're getting into, I guess. And we know we need to use this fund,
Yeah.
and we want to use it here in Hinesburg to,
Promote growth. And,
yeah, promote some business development, I guess. So.
And you work out of this branch?
Yeah, right across the
'cause I
street.
guess I would have a trouble if you lived in Charlotte and
No.
worked out of
I
Middlebury. and-
I work.
Yeah, so-
Yeah, I guess originally they didn't have a full-time commercial lender here, so they brought me on to kind of grow this market and so that's why I'm here at the bank. So.
Yeah.
and that is one piece that they're missing in that mix on the committee. And so if you look up here, I have it. It is preferred that committee members have financial business experience, but that is not a requirement. Members shall be chosen to provide a well-rounded committee with a mix of local focus, financial expertise, and small business development. At least one of the members shall have lending experience.
And
And-
then when possible, members should be
Be res-
residents of the
When
town.
possible, yeah, whenever
but
possible.
Then I think that fits perfectly.
Yeah.
I think you fit perfectly.
So, and then this term would expire when?
So currently, there's only four of the seats are filled, so there's still 3 open seats. So we could, could do any one of those, which one would have expired, let's see, 18 would have gone, these are 3-year terms.
Did we reapply Walter? I mean, appoint Walter in the fall when we
Yeah.
did the group?
I believe so. Yeah, any of those.
I guess really they would all expired at this point. if
Right.
we did.
Right, yeah.
So it's 19, so we could go to 21, which would be 2, or 22, which would be 3.
It doesn't say how many years there are.
It's a 3-year,
3 years.
Oh, it's automatically?
I think it's a 3-year terms.
So we could update the 19s to say 22, Walter to say 21,
We could do that,
and
yeah. And
Uh,
typically.
William or Bill?
Will.
Will.
Yeah.
Will.
Will
Eggleston.
Yeah.
would be 23.
20, 21, 22.
22.
Yeah,
3-year
would be 3 years.
No, because
21
it's
to
July,
22.
January 1st of 2023.
Ah, okay, yep. Yep, right. You want to make that motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion to appoint Will Eggleston to the Revolving Loan Fund Committee for term ending on January 1st, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Again, thank you for stepping up. This is a great fit, and we really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So none opposed? Thank you. Good luck. Yeah.
Take care.
Come in anytime. And Nathan is not here yet,
He'll be
right?
here later on
Okay.
in the evening, so.
So you'll just give me the signal.
Yep.
So we will come back to this, because we have one more application. The next item is a discussion of Lot 15 committee work from 2011. I think this was an attempt and a hope to sort of explain a little bit of the process of how the Lot 15 got on the town map, and a committee was put together to explore possible uses of Lot 15. And so this is an opportunity just to have a discussion about that. Do we have any? You're going to pull that up?
Oh, the lot 15.
Yeah.
Could I,
Go ahead. Yes, please.
Yeah. I was on the board
In 2009, when we adopted the official map,
and it was adopted after
after public meetings with the Planning Commission, the Selectboard, Village Steering Committee, all had recommended that we were in the process of creating an official map and identified Lot 15 as a place where there would be the potential for there to be some possible public uses. It was intended and brought forward that when development was proposed for Lot 15, that there would be the opportunity for negotiations with the developer. It was never envisioned that the entire lot would be acquired for public use, but that there would be an opportunity for negotiation and working with the developer. One of the reasons that we, on the Select Board and the Planning Commission, felt it was appropriate was that there had been several attempts to develop Lot 15, and those had failed when consultants had identified pretty extensive wetlands and had recommended to their clients that it would be very difficult to develop. So we felt that there was developable portion of Lot 15, but that portions of it could be utilized for some expanding kind of public use park parts. So that's how it originated on the official map. We put several, and this was the first iteration of an official map and the one that is still currently in use. Also, just to step back a little bit, in 1986, when Commerce Park was established, there were really no, or pretty minimal wetland rules at the time. It wasn't until the late 80s and early 90s that the state really began wetland regulations. Prior to that time, it was mostly just the jurisdiction of the Army Corps of Engineers, and the definition of wetlands at that time was that if it had been ag land, then it didn't fall under wetlands jurisdiction. And so because Commerce Park had been ag land, it was assumed that it was all developable because it was considered what was called prior converted. Those regulations kind of changed, and so by the time Lot 15 was being looked at for development, the professional consultants who were hired to evaluate it did find those wetlands. So we felt like on the select board in 2009 that in consultation with the Planning Commission and the Village Steering Committee, that it would be an ideal place that was removed somewhat from traffic, and that there could be some development of it, but that there also was potential public uses. So then in November of 2010, Hannaford submitted its application for development of Lot 15. And the Select Board recognized at that time that this was, a little bit more than a year after we had adopted the official map, that might become a consideration in the discussion of the DRB. And so in December of 2010, the Planning Commission also recognized that it had been involved in the official map and sent a letter to the staff of the DRB pointing this out, that the official map needed to be taken into consideration in the deliberations of the DRB. The DRB didn't start any hearings on the Hannaford application until January of 2010. But in December of 2010, the Select Board recognized this official map situation and began discussions and decided to appoint a committee to look at Lot 15 and specifically on if the DRB were to deny the application based on the official map, that it was not complying with the official map, that then the Select Board would need to take action within 120 days. So this committee was really tasked with identifying more specific uses that were potential on Lot 15 and giving the Select Board some guidance on what kind of action we would need to take, recognizing that the DRB process had not even started. But the Select Board at that time recognized that we needed some people to look at this more in depth. And so we appointed a committee representative of the Planning Commission, the Land Trust, the Rec Committee, and the, Conservation Commission, and a town staff person. So January 2011, the DRB hearings start. So the committee members were Joe Iadanza, John Kadash, Mike Busher, Carrie Harlow, and Rocky Martin. They do this investigation for about a year, and they present to the Select Board some ideas. They looked at they did a financial analysis of what the taxes would be, and they also prepared some plans. So I'm wondering, Renee, if you can go to the maps.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. I think it's that one. Yeah. Yeah. So they did a nice job. Mike Busher was on the committee and was able to show the existing site features. And then the next map is possible uses. So we can,
Can you just go down a little bit? I just want to look at that one
Which
more
one?
time.
Up here?
Yeah, right there, the map. So that's the, it's interesting, it's not pointing north, right? Oh, I guess it is. No, it is. You're right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
All
it can
right.
orient you. The post office
Yeah.
is kind of just off that map on
Just
the
at the-
right-hand
to the-
side.
yeah, the
So
right
the
where
yellow
the
is
sidewalk is.
the sidewalk.
Yeah.
and- Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to scroll down a little bit more. And maybe we can look at the maps.
Yeah, just keep going down.
Yeah.
Going down.
Yeah, yeah. So,
And you can keep going. and
yeah,
Shows a nice picture of example A and the next
yeah, keep going.
slide.
So this was one possibility of it being entirely developed as a public park. And then the next one. Keep going. And they did some cost estimates. Then this next one was showing all potential public use, but with a building located there. So it was definitely recognized that there was development potential on this parcel.
And the access to the civic building comes down basically where the Hannaford's
Yeah,
entrance would have been.
yeah, it's up there
or
on
would be.
on the right. So the building would be located there. Then there's another next one. Scroll down. And that's a different orientation. So all along, it was envisioned that there was the potential for development, and that, you know, the committee was saying that it could be public, but obviously, we also recognize that there could be commercial development on that property. I mean, it shows a parking lot, it shows a building, so that was what was the result of the Lot 15 committee, and they presented that to the Select Board in January of 2012. Now, I looked through the meeting packet from that meeting, and these maps were never in the meeting packet. There was just a written summary, but I don't think these maps ever were presented at a public meeting. So it's important to recognize that all along there was this recognition that there was development potential there, that the Select Board, Planning Commission, Village Steering had envisioned that it would be potentially a public-private partnership in how this lot would be developed. So the DRB hearings continued. These drawings were never presented to the DRB. The Select Board recognized that our decision would only, and our participation would only happen when the DRB made their decision about how they were going to treat the official map. And so the Select Board did not participate in those hearings. Although the Planning Commission and the Village Steering Committee did send letters to the DRB recognizing that they felt that the site plan as presented did not sufficiently accommodate public uses. So what happened was that the DRB approved the application, the Hannaford's application, because Hannaford did propose with easement language to accommodate the farmer's market in the parking lot, and there was several go-rounds about how they would accomplish that, and in the end, the DRB felt like the Hannafords had met the requirements for accommodating a public use. And I'd like to just read that conclusion from the findings of fact for that 2012 decision. It was, anyway, hang on a minute here. Yeah, it's 2012 decision. So, the applicant's farmer market proposal is a creative attempt to accommodate the official map. The official map clearly identifies the farmer's market venue as one of the future community facilities envisioned for the subject property. The proposed farmer's market area shown on the easement plan is a relatively small portion of the overall property. However, it does constitute a substantial area for a farmer's market use, especially given the market's current location at the United Church, and the applicant's proposal to allow the market exclusive use of the parking lot north of the proposed market. Accommodation of this community use is also bolstered by the applicant's proposal to provide water, electricity, restrooms, and space for accessory structure. They also would allow improvements, picnic tables. So anyway, that goes through. The decision overall is supported by the DRB. They approve it. The select board goes along. We don't have to make any decision on the official map. But the decision gets appealed by RGH and by Hannaford's because they don't like some of the conditions that were imposed on them through the DRB. So there's a long list of conditions.
On the town map?
Not on the official map, on other issues. So both RGH and Hannaford's had some things that they didn't like about the DRB's approval. So it gets appealed to the District Environmental Court, goes through a bunch of hearings, and a decision is issued from Environmental Court that basically agrees that it is can move forward. It gets further appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court then rules, and none of this really relates to the official map, but how we get back to where we are is that the Supreme Court then sends the whole project back to the DRB for review and says this is a new application. Hannaford's then submits a new application in April of, I've lost my, January of 2018, a new application is presented to the DRB staff with accompanying maps and legal documents. And in April of 2018, the DRB starts hearing it. They are reviewing it now with the existing 2009 official map, but also with the revised Hinesburg zoning regulations that were adopted in 2016. And along with the new application and the maps, which are substantially not very different because the main issue was whether they had subdivision approval for the 25 versus the 75-foot setback. The Planning Commission again in June submits a letter to the DRB stating that they feel like it needs to be better accommodation of the official map. The DRB and that the legal easement that Hannaford's presents at this time is not the same as what had been approved in the original one. And in August of 2018, the staff report to the DRB says, compliance with the official map. The recent submission addressing this subject explains the reasoning behind the selection of the farmers market in Canal Park, how it would be implemented, and how the requirements of this property is unclear. The easement language limits the market to a 3.5-hour period, 1 day a week between Monday and Thursday, limited to 4 months between June and September. The easement limits vendors to 25 and requires vendors to register with the manager of the Hannaford store. limitations of the number of vendors selling certain products are also detailed. And the DRB then recognized that that really was very restrictive easement language. And on that basis, Hannaford's did not change that language to be more in conformance with what had been presented earlier, but continues with this very restrictive language that basically Hannaford's calls the, does not give the town very much leeway in how it can use that property. And so the DRB decision that is issued in August of this year, October, denies it based on it not accommodating the official map. And the language on that is that indicates that the future community facilities are planned for the subject property to conform to the official map requirements. The applicant is proposing to convey easements to a town farmer's market on the northwest. The farmer's market easement language limits to 3.5-hour period, 1 day a week, and further it goes on to identify those limitations that were identified in the staff report that I just read. So by denying it on the official map, that then triggered the select board's need to participate in this process. And we had 120 days from that decision. And I am suggesting that I wanted to be able to show that those Lot 15 committee report, those maps that had not previously been shown, that the select board at that time had envisioned the opportunity to see a possibility of development and public use. That we've heard the reports from the Planning Commission and the Village Steering Committee that they felt like the proposal really didn't accommodate it, and in fact, the submission that was just denied was far more restrictive than the original one. So I just thought it would be helpful for the other members of the select board here and for the public to understand the history of how we got to where we are. So now we are within 10 days of needing to make a decision on the condemnation proceedings, which is outlined in state statute. That is what I'd like to say. I feel like we had a lot of input on developing that official map in 2009. There were public hearings, and that those reasons for doing it were still valid when this application was being reviewed, and they're still valid today. And so it's now going to be up to the select board for us to decide how we want to take action, recognizing that we have regulations and maps that are created for the benefit of the entire community that have been voted on, and we have the opportunity to take some action.
Thanks. I mean, it was, at least for me, it was good to sort of get the whole story in one piece. Because it was a little confusing, I think, not only for me, for others, really how we got here, why the DRB accepted the town map conditions the first go-around, and why the second go-around, it got denied in that the language was different. And I think the other piece for me is the realization that potentially, depending on what the select board decides to do, the decision isn't necessarily purchase lot 15 or not. You conceivably could be a portion or a piece or something to accommodate the town map. Go ahead.
Say these maps, which I find very helpful, are on the town website. If you look at the A to Z listing and you go under L, Lot 15 Committee at Commerce Park, and you see that yellow box, and I think it's It's the third one down, possible uses, is that right, Renee?
Anybody else? Tom, did you want to?
I think we should open it up to the public
Sure,
first.
we can do that, yeah. Okay. Any public comment on this? Just discussion about I think it was discussion about the Lot 15 committee and what they presented to the select board. Don? Sure, why not?
Hi, I'm Dawn Francis. I live on Butternut Lane. And first and foremost, Andrea, I want to say thank you for your dedication and service to the town. It's been a long haul. And I think everyone can agree that you certainly dig into the details. And although we may not have agreed in some cases on different issues, certainly you've brought value to the town. So I appreciate your service. So I just found out that this was on the agenda tonight, so very quickly looked at the report that was done by the committee, all those different links there. And I guess what I'd like to say is, I've read that report. It was prepared by a citizen group. When you look at the composition of the citizen group with the rec board, the conservation committee, a land trust member, planning commission member, they might lean towards land conservation and public use. And I also have read the current Lot 15 applicant's fiscal and impact analysis. And that was prepared by a known expert, Northern Economic Consulting, and dated 1913. And that report is available to the select board to look at and was done after Lot 15 committee's report was done. And so I would suggest that really, in order to get the complete picture of what the financial impacts might be of a public use on this lot, you probably should look at that report as well.
Can you just say the name it again?
Yeah, it's Northern Economic Consulting prepared this report for the applicant. It's called the Impact Analysis of the Hinesburg Hannaford Supermarket.
So this was for Hannaford's and presented to the DRB?
It was presented to the DRB as well as the District Environmental Commission.
Okay, so in the first go-around or the second? First?
This was done in 2013,
Okay.
the first go-around.
That must have been done for Act 250
Absolutely.
because the DRB had already made their decision.
Okay, yeah. All right. yeah.
Exactly. And again, I'm not here to advocate for or against Hannaford. I'm just saying that there is additional impact analyses that have been done. And the District Environmental Commission seemed to concur with those findings by saying that there is no measurable impact on municipal services or facilities. And the only other thing I'd offer is I think that the scope of the Lot 15 committee work on fiscal impact was really extremely limited. It's primarily about property taxes. And therefore, I really think that the credibility of the report has to be called into question. It doesn't include the secondary benefits gained from commercial uses such as jobs, payroll taxes, sales taxes, charitable contributions, the continued availability of a market and demand for local producers, the continued viability of a small grocery store in a growing community, and then just the direct spin-off effects from having a commercial anchor in the heart of the village. Having, whether it's a Hannaford's or some other commercial use on that lot, will have direct benefit to the surrounding businesses and residents around it. I'll also say that the Lot 15 committee report cites a very old report prepared for Williston, and you're comparing apples and oranges, Williston and Hinesburg. This report was done in 2002, all right? It's pretty old. So if you use the premise that this Lot 15 committee seemed to have, that's basically commercial development doesn't contribute much to, if anything at all, to a town, then why do we have NRG? Why do we have the businesses that are in the cheese plant? you know, why do we have the hardware store, the drugstore, the liquor store? I need the liquor store. So the other thing that I'd like to note about the committee report is it really lowballs the cost of acquiring that land, lot 15, in a commercial park. I think it's assessed at $200,000 now. I doubt very much that that would be the cost to acquire it right now. I'm certain that it would be a lot more. It doesn't include the cost of planning, engineering, design, and maintaining the property as a public, non-tax generating parcel in the future. Yes, those maps did have that information, but when you look at the committee's report and the financial analysis, it didn't mention any of these costs that it's going to take to have it as a public use. The report lists a number of potential revenue sources. However, the likelihood of these small pots of grant sources, basically they were anywhere from $1,000 to maybe $50,000. I think the Housing and Conservation Board had some funding, but they're primarily focused right now on affordable housing. And I would also question, there's obviously community disagreement over the future of this parcel. And those funding sources are going to run way far away if they know that there's some level of dissension in our community. So I would suggest that you do review the District Environmental Commission's findings on fiscal and municipal impact, that you look at the current applicant as an example of what the commercial impacts might be. Again, I did a very quick cursory look. It says that the proposed project, this again is lot 15, the current applicant, it's going to have a positive economic impact on the host town. It will generate a total of 49 jobs and a payroll of $1.3 million during its operation. You're going to have 21 construction jobs during project construction. It said it's going to lower the municipal tax rate. And then when you looked at it in 2013, the average single-family home in Hinesburg would be seeing lower taxes of $6.65 per year. Obviously, it now needs to be updated, right? But it also doesn't consider the education tax. The education tax, yes, it goes to the state. But who do you think benefits from that? All of us, in terms of lowering the tax rate that we have to pay for our school services. So I don't think you can dismiss that entirely. It talks about minimally affecting the growth and rate of growth in the region. Other benefits include improving the traffic flow, traffic mitigation and improvements, including more pedestrian amenities. And I want to call out, Andrea, yes, you mentioned the farmers market, but they also proposed to put in a small pocket park as part of the public facilities. So that does meet the spirit and intent of the official map in the absence of some specific language. They were going to improve some drainage in the Commerce Park subdivision. They were going to contribute to our fire department and other impact fees. Again, please don't misconstrue my thoughts as saying I'm a total Hannaford's advocate. I'm a loyal Lampman supporter. I will admit I do an occasional trip to Costco and Hannaford's and Healthy Living because of these special items, and I'll bet a lot of other folks do here in town. Let's keep those dollars local. The other thing is, I think since the original official map adoption, there's been a lot of conditions that have changed in this community that we really need to consider. We've changed the zoning such that no commercial uses larger than 20,000 square feet can be developed. And therefore, it's going to limit our potential to become the Williston or the South Burlingtons of the world. You folks have taken a proactive approach. That's wonderful. Let's see, I talked about how Lot 15 did include a pocket park in the areas for the farmers market. We have a lot of undeveloped, publicly owned land. We've talked about Lot 1. You've got the new recreation fields. Thank you for your leadership there, Tom. There's a lot of underdeveloped rec areas, Lyman Park, Hinesburg Community School. You've got development proposals for NRG and the Haystack Crossing Plan. Those two latter proposals should be required to have some kind of public facility within it. And it's gonna be in closer proximity to proposed residential development than would some parcel on Commerce Street in Commerce Park. The only other huge consideration, I think, is the maps that are being shown are misleading because it's got this huge starfish of wetlands. Well, since the official map was adopted, both the Army Corps of Engineers and the state of Vermont have determined that those aren't significant wetlands. They took it through a whole functional analysis, right? It's not a significant wetland. I believe, and I haven't confirmed this, it's only hearsay, Hannaford's has offered to do some wetland mitigation. And so, again, I think that these are all changed conditions that warrant a reevaluation of the official map. And you also have a proposal, the applicant again, they've proposed the farmer's market, so get the easement language changed. That's a perfect thing for a mediated settlement. Have them make sure that the pocket park has the landscaping and the benches and the streetscape amenities that you want for that pocket park. So in summary, I've talked about this a lot. We have limited resources here in the town of Hinesburg. I've been fortunate enough to work for municipalities for many years, just most recently as a town manager. And right now, your resources, both time, money, and staff, legal costs, are being spent on this discussion when you have a limited amount of area available for this commercial use. I think it's all about affordability in terms of what we can afford here in Hinesburg versus the other parcels of land that are available to us right now. I believe that the most compatible use, given the surrounding uses there in Commerce Park, is as a commercial use, especially when you've changed your zoning and limited commercial uses to less than 20,000 square feet. I think it's gonna provide jobs, services, tax base expansion. It's gonna anchor our village center. It will benefit other nearby commercial uses as well. And finally, you know, this community is growing. You've got proposals for 400 plus housing units. Is Lampman's going to be able to serve us for the future in terms of our future growth? We all love Lampman's. Again, I'll freely admit that every now and then I step outside of Hinesburg to get some things that I can't get at Lampman's. And I'm willing to bet that Hannaford's probably did the market analysis to say there's a lot of leakage going on outside of our community. People are doing their shopping elsewhere. Don't we want to encourage some type of retail use, grocery use in our community in the future, keep our dollars local, and reduce our having to drive and shop elsewhere? I know you folks have a tough job. I appreciate the time and dedication that you put into it. There might be typos. I just whipped this together. So that's just one perspective. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll take a look at that study. I've now, once you described it, I do think I've seen it, but it'd be worth taking another look. Is that 2 pages?
Only 1.5.
I think I got it.
Great.
All right, I'm cognizant of the time, but if someone else wants to discuss what's on the agenda is the Lot 15 committee work specifically. Did you want to? No, you want to talk about it. All right.
Bill,
Thanks.
can I ask a question?
Yes?
Do I understand correctly that the select board is going to make a decision in the next 10 days about whether to take lot 15 by eminent domain or not?
I think that's fair. We're waiting to hear from the court on our motion. And I think one way or the other, well, if in fact that does not happen, I would be looking for the select board to make a decision. Yes.
Well, what is the substance of that motion to which you referred?
Whether to proceed with condemnation hearing.
No, I think he means the stay.
Oh, to stay.
Motion for stay.
That's what I'm asking about. So there's a motion to stay that 120-day period in front of the environmental court?
Yes. It's been there since December.
And I think we've talked about that at these meetings and sort of why we felt that was good advice to do that. There's a number of issues in front of the court that impact this significantly. So we were hoping to get some clarification on those.
Well, if I may further address it, then I'd be happy to do that. Right. I'm Keith Roberts. I live on Levine Hill Road. I trust the process, but what I've heard tonight does not give me much faith in that process. Referring to things that happened years and years ago that haven't been updated, and in fact may even been ignored based on what I heard Dawn just say. I think that it would be catastrophically irresponsible to make a decision in the next 10 days about what to do about Lot 15 with what sounds to me like a very undeveloped and incomplete set of facts and reports to look at. So I would advocate certainly encouraging, well, I'm sure the environmental court knows about the deadline. And I trust that process, that will be recognized and you'll have a decision on your motion to stay or not, the 120-day period before that expires. But regardless of whether that happens or not, I still think it would be a bad decision to rush this in that time, in that limited time frame. There's obviously a lot of issues here. Unfortunately, the use of Lot 15 is intertwined with the Hannaford application. It's very clouded by that, and it seems pretty clear to me that the potential eminent domain taking of the lot is a reaction to the Hannaford application, and I don't think that's the right policy from a governance or a financial standpoint to enter into. I think there's a lot more that should be considered. My position on this now is pretty clear that should be land used for a commercial purpose. I'm not advocating for or against the Hannaford. I have the same position that Dawn espouses, which is maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's not. Let's let that process play out. But it's a commercial property in the middle of the village, which this community has decided we want to have a vibrant village center. And for all the reasons that we have commercial property and commercial businesses in town, I think that the limited amount of space that we have for such things, that should be used for it. The fact of the matter is a lot of people have a position on the Hannaford. And again, I'm not advocating for or against the Hannaford. I'm advocating for letting that process play out. I think that if part of the drive to make this a park is because of Hannaford's decision to put what sound to me like pretty heavy restrictions on the public use of it, which sounds materially different from the original application, if that's the reaction, then, go talk to them. Let that process play out. Either have the court say your use, Hannaford, your use of the land for a public facility is not consistent with Hinesburg Town Plan, then Hannaford's rolling the dice and taking that chance to do that. I think they're smarter than that, and they're probably looking for a way to negotiate that. And maybe that is a means for mediation and resolving the dispute with Hannaford. But again, unfortunately, these things are intertwined. But at the very least, I think taking this land by eminent domain is not the right approach from a governance standpoint or a financial standpoint. And I don't think it is ever, but certainly not at this juncture with what sounds to me like incomplete and premature information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have anything to talk about the Lot 15, which was on the agenda? Yes? Or no?
Ask a question. I think the appraised value is about 200,000. I forget, but does the select board have any idea what it would cost just to purchase it? And
We've had some discussions, but no, I mean, if the process was to move forward, then there would have to be
and new appraisal presumably.
appraisal. Yeah, that would have to be part of the process.
And then appraisal costs, legal costs.
All that,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
So in addition
Right.
to, okay.
That's right.
So if you make a decision in the next 10 days, though, if you decide yes, then we'll go down that course, not knowing what the appraisal will be, right?
There's
Well,
lots of time to
yeah.
get all of those issues resolved.
As part of the process is this sort of appraisal piece.
Appraisal,
So,
survey.
I think, this is really about the presentation on lot 15
Okay.
specifically. Like I said, we're gonna be coming back. I imagine we'll be meeting upstairs
Okay.
to talk more about that. Yes, go ahead.
John Littleton,
Yeah.
Lace Road. I just had a quick question, not to derail anymore. Like, where would the money come from to buy this?
That's a good
Or
question.
use
I
eminent
mean,
domain?
right.
We have 10 days.
Well, no, we wouldn't have to make that decision in 10 days. We would make a decision. What we have is a deadline of February 14th that says for the select board to make a decision based on the DRB decision to deny the applicant based on the town map. And so that's the decision that the select board, I think, needs to make. And I've committed to a couple of large groups that said, one way or the other, we will have that vote. And we had a motion to stay, which would be, that vote may be easier, maybe or may not be, based on what other decisions the court is going to have to make. And it looks like maybe we won't have that opportunity to see that. So and this is me, I'm saying, I think that it would be inappropriate for the select board not to have a vote and make a decision. The DRB has done their piece. The town map is their official piece. That's all town business. And so now they're looking at the select board. Now it comes into the select board's hands, and I think it's appropriate for the select board to do the same, to follow through the process. So that's sort of what I think we're trying to do.
I think it's important to recognize that is only one of the reasons for denial. So this is an issue that the select board has to deal with. The other issues are still will be before the court, need to be argued, and the town will be defending the DRB's decision on those, which related to traffic and to stormwater. So this is just one aspect where the select board itself has to make a decision. The other decisions will be made in court. But the decision for us to take action is a limited time of 120 days. It just begins a process that involves appraisals, surveys, and negotiations. So, and all of those other issues may be played out in court during the time in which these other actions would take place if we proceeded with condemnation. So it's not, there's only one action that we have to take, and then it of course would involve much more due diligence on our part to move forward.
And I just, this is again me personally saying that we've been elected to be on the select board. Here's a really difficult and, contentious article that's come in front of the select board. And for me, I feel it's important for the select board to vote. And so for people to know, here's what we're voting and here's why. One way or the other. It doesn't, in the end, it doesn't matter. It's what matters is that we follow the process.
I mean, and part of the process is that we could just ignore it. We just do nothing. And then it just goes away, and the other issues that are before the court would be decided. So we could just basically let the 120 days elapse and not have a vote, not do anything, not ever have any of these discussions.
One more.
Does it have to be the condemnation of the whole lot 15?
No.
Good. So we could say, okay, 3 acres, we will, so it's not all or none. So I think that is where we have.
I think, I'm going to,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so that's sort of part of this, and we've sort of had that discussion saying that, that the select board can understand that it isn't necessarily lot 15 or not. So,
Okay, that's a good,
and that's it. All right, I think we're gonna move on, because we're gonna, more than likely, unless the court makes a decision, have a very big meeting next Monday on the 11th. Is there? Jeff, did you wanna?
Yeah, hi, I'll just make it real quick.
Okay.
It's kind of from a planning commission, but I'm Jeff
Oh,
Friend.
yeah, and, yeah.
So obviously, the planning commission voted to support lot 15 and to keep it on the official map. I don't necessarily know if that means going down the path of eminent domain or whatever. It's more, it's a regulatory document. It's been here long before Hannaford's came up, and I think it's important for this town to consider that. I think there's other greater issues with the other application with Hannaford, and we don't need to get into that today. But I just want to say, the main focus of Lot 15 over the years for the Planning Commission is having that space. We've got about 5% of open land on that official map. And a smart growth community that we want is typically 15 to 20%. So that's where all those things come in. So when you hear Lot 1 or that small part, it's all of it together and how it all connects. So I think you need to take that into mind about the importance of that space that's been designated for years. So, thanks.
All right. All right.
We'd love to hear your comments and questions on the budget too, which is what we're going to
That's
talk about
right, that's next,
I think
yeah.
that's really what they're all here for. That's why.
Yeah, no, that was good, smart moves, yeah. Yeah, that's fair. All right, jeez, nobody likes the budget, huh?
Budget, it really is.
You got to bring the food, Renee, just bring it out now.
If I bribe you with food next week, can we do?
Really?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Oh, he's waiting out there? Nate.
Oh, Nate's here. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Come on, we can do
Come
that.
on down.
She have a black jacket? Might have been Nancy Norris. She's not blonde, though.
Nathan?
Oh, yeah, come on up, Nate.
We'll get you in.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna step back to agenda item number 4. We appointed 2 folks for committees already, and we have a third. Nathan Frey, who is interested in the steering committee.
Is it
and-
Frey or Fry?
Fry, okay. Correct me on that, yeah, give me. We have your resume here, and you didn't get to hear me say it, but I love saying it. These guys have heard me say it. This is maybe my favorite thing on being on the select board, is being able to, when people come up like yourself, who are looking to volunteer, help the community, you know, see value, and you know, recognize this community as something special, and then say, hey, there's something I can do to help it. And then typically, sometimes it's people we don't really know, and we look at their resume and look where they're coming from and what they're gonna bring, and I'm always amazed. You know, as I am with many others, and the other 2 that came today, thank you for coming forward. Maybe I'll give you just 2 minutes to sort of say, you know, why the steering committee, and yeah, just that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the right fit. I don't know. I guess you guys are here to kind of to tell me. I've wanted to be involved with the town for the last couple of years, and just combination of life and overwhelming events. You know, I hadn't really taken a step forward to do that yet. When I saw I think I corresponded with Renee to kick this all off, and she said, look, you know, we've got this issue with the steering committee because they don't have enough people on it to actually, you know, meet and make a decision. Looking at the mission of the steering committee, it seemed like a
a generally good fit for my background with the strategic planning and looking at the long-term visioning and such. I'm very comfortable and have been in for most of my professional career in situations where I'm advising decision makers as a staff member, either on you read them as a resume operations or intelligence side. So I think that's certainly my strong suit. Sitting in the hallway and listening to this previous conversation about some of the research that's happened in the past and the need to perhaps update the steering committee, or excuse me, the select board's background on things is right up my alley in that regards. I understand that decision makers can only make a good decision based on the accuracy of the staff work that happens in the background, and that's a crucial part of of your job is being properly informed. So I guess this is sort of me laying out this idea that if looking at the resume, if this is what the background that you want to join the steering committee to assist with that informing, because you're sort of ultimately the town is the end user, but I'm giving information to you so you can make the best informed decision for the town as a whole. So if you like what you see, then I'm more than happy to step up and start working on that.
All right. Any more questions?
Well, Nathan, I'd like to say thank you for your letter to the Select Board previously, and the letter that was published, I believe, in the Citizen or the Record, or both. Those were valuable and helpful. I also value your living in different communities and different situations, so I think that's really helpful where you can have a comparison. And then not only that, but you lived in New Hampshire and then you chose to come back to Hinesburg because you value our community. So to me, those are all big pluses of the comparison and the choice that this is something you value. So thank you for wanting to help us out in our town.
Yeah, I think, as I noted in a previous, I think it was a planning commission meeting I came to, I know that as sort of a newcomer looking in, the dialogue around Lot 15 in Hannaford, I think has been difficult in some regards, and it's long and sort of drawn out, but referencing places that I've come from in the past where the conversation never even happens. People just wake up the next day and they're like, where did that insert, development come from? We're doing the right thing. And regardless of what decision comes about in the end, I think that the fact that Hinesburg has this process and a system for working through and trying to make an informed decision and taking public input is hugely valuable. And that's one of the reasons we're back here, is feel like people are at least listening. And if at the end of it, you may not necessarily agree and the decision doesn't go the way that you thought it should go, but you can at least trust that there was information and deliberate decision making in the back end. And again, that's what I hope it can be a part of through the steering committee.
That's one of the things that makes a community, and we are a strong community. That's one of the reasons why.
We're going to have you come back every once in a while, give us that speech again.
We'll pop up.
Any other questions? Do we know if we were to make a motion, what the date would be? Yeah.
22.
I've got just one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I see you're from Texas Hill.
Yeah.
So why, most people who have served on this committee in the past have been from the village. What draws you to this committee as opposed to some others?
There's an opening on it.
Fair enough.
So a couple of things in regards to that. First, reference Marilee's comment on community. The community doesn't just encompass the village itself. It's the entire town of Hinesburg. And so, if most of the representation is tended to be within the village, then I say, well, all the more reason to have someone who's a bit more on the outside of that growth ring, looking in and saying, well, this is the perspective from the Texas Hill side of things, or perhaps the western the western side of things. So that's the first. It'll add some diversity. And again, the second, in terms of why the interest in this particular commission and organization, is because as things change in our community, right? Lot 15, Hannaford only being one of the many things we were considering, sidewalks and how do we connect these outlying areas to the village center, what's going to happen if the Black Rock development comes in. We need to start thinking about how the outlying areas are affected. Things that I just kind of stew on as I'm sitting on my couch at night and thinking about the future of the village are things like, well, is there a way to connect this, I would say a sort of a child-heavy area on the east side, the Texas Hill area, the mobile home park at the top of the hill, over in the hidden pasture area. How does that get connected to the village center? And regardless of, we're talking about, the parks and farmers markets coming up. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean to the outlying residents? And how do they get here without necessarily using a car or without necessarily, having to, or given the opportunity to walk or something? So, the decisions that we make now, we make now are going to affect, the citizens that are coming to live here in the next 5 to 10 years. And so as we start to see the growth occur within the village, it is important to have a perspective for what happens. What does that growth look like, and how do we maintain the sense of community and connectedness, physically and spatially? Does that answer your question? Sort of.
Yeah, sort of, I would say.
It's
fine.
I can try harder.
No, I think you'll be fine.
No, I think it is really important because people who live in the village have a very different perspective on what the traffic is than the people who are trying to get into the village, to drop their kids off in school. And I think it's excellent that we have people from outlying areas to be on the village steering committee, for sure.
Because you're going to use the village. And
Yep.
this connectivity piece is one we've just really been discussing more in the last 2 or 3 months. And it is quite a challenge.
And once you're in your car up on Texas Hill, it may be easier to go north than to come into the village.
In some regards, that's true.
Yeah, you don't even come down, you just go out
Right.
Richmond Road and cut across on Pond Brook.
At certain
There you are
times.
at Taft's Corners.
Yeah, at certain times during the day, it's been, there have been decisions I make where, I'll work in Jericho and decide to bypass and go through Richmond to go to the Richmond market, because I know that if I have to go into the center of town and it's 5:30, welcome to the next 45 minutes of my life and listen to podcasts in the car, So, there are perspectives outside the village, because it's still our village ultimately, right? We live in Hinesburg, village still belongs to us.
All right, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Nathan Fry to the Village Steering Committee for a period ending, what did you say?
1/1/22.
1/22,
January 29, 2022.
January 2022.
All right,
Second.
and we have a second. Any more discussion? And, I'll just say one more time, I was really impressed with your background. You're actively in the Guard now, is that right? Yep. And then you have quite a bit of outdoor rec sort of background too, which is pretty impressive. And then your environmentally sustainable concerns, that you bring into that too. It's quite a mix, and I really am looking forward to having some input from you, and you certainly can come to this select board if I'm here or not, and provide advice anytime you want. That's what does make this community worthwhile and distinctive. So.
Just don't talk to us in Chinese, Russian, or
Right.
Spanish, right?
All those in favor of appointing Nathan Fry to the steering committee, village steering committee, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and none opposed, so thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan.
Anything else from me right now?
No, we're good, yeah.
Thanks. Good night.
You can stay for the budget discussion.
Yeah.
I keep trying. I'm definitely gonna have to bring.
We should have held him back, right?
To lock the door.
Yeah, I should have put all those people at the end.
I
The
should put
next-
the budget right before the lock.
The next item was just questions or answers from residents regarding the fiscal year 2020 budget. So I think the select board has gone through this for a while and feeling like we're presenting a good budget. But just in case there are questions from anybody else. Yes, Keith?
Can I ask a logistical question?
Yes?
When it's printed, are you gonna mail out the annual reports, or do we need to come pick them up at town hall?
I think we are. They are being mailed to everyone this year.
Yeah, good question.
But you can also pick them up here. You'll also be able to get them online. And you'll also be able to pick them up in the recycle bin at the post office.
And they just went to press last week probably, so what's the anticipated?
No,
they haven't gone to
Oh,
press
they
yet.
haven't, I thought the date was end of January, the due date.
Well, it is, and then it all gets compiled and put
Okay,
together,
all
and
right.
the final reports are there,
Yeah.
and
So
proofread.
a couple weeks?
It probably somewhere around the mid-February
Okay,
comes out.
thank you.
Yep.
I think there was some, unless anybody else has any specific discussion, I'll sort of weigh in. I think Renee and I talked about the warned item on the Charlotte-Lampman's intersection. And I think, I think we're feeling okay with having that as a separate warned item. In my select board report, I did add something. I don't think it originally was in there, so I added a, I don't know, paragraph or something about that. It might have been in, it wasn't when I first wrote it, and then after we decided to make it a separate item, realizing we need to explain that, I attempted to explain it in the report, so you can take a look at it. And I expect that we'll probably have a slide or two presenting it, so that people can sort of understand exactly what it is. And we haven't really had a discussion. We never really put it to a vote or anything, other than I don't know if I thought of it or you thought of it, somebody thought of it, and we said, oh, that's a good idea, let's make it a separate item rather than including it in the budget. And I think I describe it in my report as a decision that we made to make it a separate item. I think I say,
The select board decided to add a special warrant item for town meeting.
okay. So I just want to make sure I'm describing it correctly, too.
And so the wording.
Yeah. So the budget pages you see that I made copies of that some people grabbed don't reflect the additional 50,000 because it'll be a separate warrant item at town meeting.
But the narrative at the end does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
On
I
the
think so.
warning.
Yes.
On the warning.
Yep.
Yes,
It says, if you voted for everything, here's what it is.
right.
So,
Which comes right after Article, this is gonna be Article 9.
yeah, and I'm happy, unless somebody else wants to do it, but I'm planning to put one or two slides together and a few little facts,
So here's
similar
the-
to what's in that.
The town meeting warning is up there right now, so it's down on Article 9. Shall the town appropriate an estimated sum of 50,000 to be raised from property taxes for work required to modify the configuration and signal light timing of the Lampman's exit Charlotte Road Route 116 intersection for the purpose of improving traffic flow in the village? And then below that, if voters approved Articles 3 through 9 as presented, the total general fund expenditures of $4,012,539 will be required. And with the estimated amount of $3,349,422 to come from property tax revenue. So that's just adding the 50,000 to what is on the budget pages that you saw, the memo states.
And if we make amendments to any of those
Yeah.
other budget items, you can just put it in that spreadsheet and we'll revise that number at the end, under Article 9.
After town meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You mean-
maybe
Well,
even
we might be able to
add
keep
during
it,
town
yeah.
meeting.
I suppose.
Right, oh yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But we'll be
Yeah.
voting on them individually, but.
Right.
But it would be good to be ready with a calculator.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, to see
yeah.
what the bottom line
If
is.
somebody was to vote for, let's say, $10,000 for select board meals, we could put
Yeah,
it
we
right
could
in
put-
there.
yeah.
And say, now you've approved this amount.
Right.
So
A trip to Key West.
without the $50,000 addition, the FY20 municipal budget is $3,962,539, which represents a 2.79% increase in expenditures over FY19.
I have a question.
Sure.
When you say modify the traffic signals, I had a almost terrible experience because I was first in line to come out of Lampman's and the signal was green for me to go. When you're sitting there, you don't have any visibility of anything south of you.
That's why we're.
Right, that's why, that's part of the purpose of that
Okay.
configuration.
Thank you, that's good.
Yeah, because the problem is that you cannot have a stop bar in front of a crosswalk. And where the sidewalk is, then that means the stop bar is too far back. And if we modify it, then we'll be able to move the sidewalk ahead, move the stop bar ahead, increase visibility in both directions, and hopefully be able to have a right turn on red, which will reduce the Lampman's line. But also the main purpose is to synchronize the signalization so that when people are on the Charlotte Road and exiting, that it's a typical four-way intersection, so you can both be moving at the same time.
This was an ambulance. And I and they were, squeaky. So, the thing that puzzled me was I thought that ambulances were given a special signal so that everything would stop everywhere.
No.
And that didn't happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, the other item, since we're talking about it, associated with this warned item, is that doing this work is a condition on the Hannaford's permit, that to address traffic issues, this was one thing that they were on the hook to do. And I think the board, in trying to offer the public an opportunity to do something with traffic, this is the one thing that could be done, but it would cost these funds. And if we did nothing, potentially Hannaford's would be on the hook to do it, but that we think is, a ways away. And so if people are really concerned about traffic, this is about the only thing we can do that would address traffic on 116, because we don't own the road and we have very little say on how things are done. The other item of traffic that by the traffic study that was brought up was to improve the Shelburne Falls Seaview Road intersection with 116 by adding turning lanes, and that has been approved by the state and is going to start this year, we believe, and possibly be finished next year. So that is going to happen, and will be paid for by the state. So this is really one other item that could be done if the town decides to spend $50,000.
And we also already have the engineering is being done right now for it. So this is just actual construction. The engineering, we were funded through the Regional Planning Commission. So there's a consulting engineer who's doing the required kind of engineering so that this is the construction dollars.
Keith, did you?
If I may suggest, I think the 2 points you just made, Phil, are very relevant, and you ought to make sure that's
Oh, I'm
stated
going to, yes.
in a month.
Yeah.
That this could be a Hannaford cost
Right.
in that eventuality, so the 50 grand will get reimbursed.
Oh,
No.
it won't. We've
No?
been
Okay, so
advised
what
it
do you-
probably wouldn't be. But, we don't know that for sure, but we've been advised, because we asked that question, if we did it, and then the Hannaford's thing moved forward, would they be on the hook? And The answer wasn't yes. The answer was,
Okay,
you
well,
could
well,
ask,
well,
yeah.
that's a fair disclosure
Right, yeah,
then.
yeah.
That this is part of the traffic mitigation that may be ordered, and if we waited, it would probably get paid for.
It might
but we'd-
get paid
but we'd have to wait forever for it.
Maybe, right.
Alternatively, we can do it and maybe ask them to pay for it later.
Right.
And I think it's also important to the other point that I think you made, which is, why this is on the town's hook, not the state's hook, because we can control that side entrance, not
Yes.
116.
Yeah.
But we can't do it. So we have to follow all of their regulations
Well,
to do
well,
it.
yeah, but I personally, and I'm sure everyone in town has heard for years, that we can't do anything on 116 because it's the state's road.
Right.
So I think people need to understand what you're proposing and why, because it is within the bailiwick of the town.
Yeah. And I'll just say, we're putting this on the town warning. In my opinion, I don't know, because we haven't voted on it, but, I'm not sure if we asked the select board individually, each of us, do you think it's worth it or not? I think we were all saying, hey, we hear a lot about traffic, and this is something that could be done. Let's offer the taxpayers the opportunity to here's something that can be done, or they like to do that? All right, I think that's it then, unless there's any other discussion on the budget.
I think the purpose of this is just, if there's questions from the residents or anything that would help make it more clear for you, we'd like to know that now so we can prepare the town meeting presentation and information for the next select board meeting to get all the budget information out.
The fact that we had a couple questions on that warning says,
Yeah,
yes.
that one,
That
definitely.
we'll want to be able to explain that very
Yep.
well. All right.
You might even want to say, I believe the select board or the town was talking about that before Hannaford came to town. I believe
Yes,
there was.
yeah, we were proposing to do something about that prior to Hannaford's. So it's, since at least 2008.
All right, so we'll move on. Next item on the agenda, item 7, is something we do every year, and this is approving the certificate of highway mileage. It is a report we give to the state that says, here's how many class 2, 3, and 4 roads we have and the mileage of them. Were there any changes that happened?
We did at the last one, remember last year?
We added
We added the Mulberry
Thistle Hill area,
Lane
yeah?
section. And so that's reflected in this. So there weren't any further changes that we needed to do.
The connector roads not included?
Not currently, no. No.
Should it be?
That's still debatable how we're gonna be using that. They're looking at that because there's been issues on the connector road with traffic avoiding the light and they're flying through that section. And so we are exploring the options that the town has and possibly making it not a throughway at all and just for access to the police station and fire station.
It was supposed to,
Yeah.
we never put up a one-way sign.
We have a no left turn because through the Act 250 permit that was required, a
Yeah.
requirement to have a no left turn so that you weren't crossing traffic. There's confusion whether or not there should be a no left turn coming off of 116, but
Right,
that
yeah.
eliminates, the option. So the other possible way is just not making it, close to through traffic and just for the police
Just
station so
access
that,
in and out, yeah.
so people aren't
So
using that as
where
a.
is that conversation happening?
Well, right now, between the police, planning and zoning, and then we reached out to the Act 250 folks. And so we're trying to determine what flexibility the town has.
Is
Then I'll come to
the people coming from Creekside buzzing through?
People coming from Creekside, but also there's delivery trucks, buses, other things have been
Right.
coming through there to avoid the light.
Are you asking if we could just make it one way off of 116?
So
So
we're trying
into-
trying to find out what's going to be the safest because the police are feeling like, one, that parking spaces have been filled up, but two, that there's traffic coming through fast there, and so they've had police officers that are either backing up into their spaces or just coming out, or people walking to the police station and the cars are going by pretty fast, and so it's an issue that came came to my attention because of
I hope we
that.
could consider traffic calming, like
Yeah,
putting speed
right,
bumps in
right,
there too.
yeah, right.
And not
Right,
just
those were things that were
completely
talked
closing it
about,
off.
yeah. I think we want to explore what all of our options are. We'd bring it back to you guys before taking any action, but I just wanted to find out what the options are, what flexibility the town has.
I can't help but I have to say, so they're speeding by the police.
I know.
Police station, isn't there something they can do?
I know.
Spike strips.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, anyhow.
Okay, so that's not added here. I
That's
mean,
not
it's very
added.
short, maybe it's, I don't know, yeah, 400 yards,
Right.
so.
So
I'll
this
make a
is-
motion to approve the certificate of highway mileage for the year ending February 10th, 2019.
Second.
Year ending, okay, well, I guess that's what it says.
All right, any more
Is that right,
discussion?
though?
And we have to sign that tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All those in favor of approving the certificate of highway mileage, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so none opposed, so that passed.
That is
All right,
the signature.
don't go without signing that. Next item is the town administrator report.
All right. In that, first, I have another form for you to sign that the assessor just brought to me today. It's regarding the grand list. And so after a certain date, this is just a standard procedure that once they've set the grand list, after they've had the errors and omissions, so the grand list was adjusted after that. This is where it's set now. There's no way, there isn't an ability for anyone to appeal
Okay.
that. So it's just something that you guys sign. So I just need the signatures for that, and then
Okay.
put it in for a file.
Certificate of what?
So we've already,
Certificate, no appeal or suit pending.
Okay.
so we've already done.
You've already done
and
the.
This is just.
This is just.
All right, we can do that.
We had our wastewater upgrade planning meeting on February 1st, and we have visits scheduled to go to some of the nearby wastewater plants just to see what they look like. So there's going to be a group of us going to visit those.
South Burlington.
South Burlington, Waterbury, and Queechee, to look at the various different plants and be able to talk to the operators there and ask questions and learn more about how it functions and what types of things that creates for each town, as far as asking the questions about did they have to increase their staff, what type of impact what type of impact it had on utilities and things like that. So it will be good to be able to actually see an operating one, rather than we've seen things on paper and we've seen information, but to actually see one operating and talk
So-
to folks.
Yeah, and I think fairly soon, Wayne, I assume Wayne will come to the select board and give a little bit more information, to everybody. We're looking at, basically utilizing just a portion of the lagoon system. Because we have to change from a lagoon to other processes. We have some of those other process options, and we're gonna go visit some of them to get a better understanding. There's nothing there as, I would say, cutting edge. It's good technology to meet the permit limits, but nothing that's not already out there being used to get to these limits. It's just different than our lagoon system. I think that's good, right?
Yeah.
Have they done any kind of an economic, not just putting a price tag on it, but
They're working
that's
on it.
are they working
that's
with
being
a
worked on, yes.
consultant, or are they doing it in-house?
They do.
I think
They do it in-house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I thought when we interviewed them, they didn't really say they had that expertise.
I think he did say.
Okay.
Something
All right.
checked on.
I really hope that we get a full kind of spreadsheet of understanding what the impact is to users.
Right.
Right.
How we're gonna fund this.
How we're gonna fund it, yeah.
Yeah.
What are the costs, how we're gonna fund it, the cost capital and ongoing operation.
Yeah.
And
And
you
the
know, I think.
longevity of the system.
Yeah, I think that what's come down is that yes, this system will require more labor hours to maintain. The lagoons are sort of set it and forget it, you know, and I mean, obviously there's daily things that happen, but you've got a lot more, a lot of capacity there, so if something doesn't quite work right, you just, you know, hold it back but now it won't be that way. You'll be, you know, constantly processing to go forward. One thing they did look at, and we've had a state representative at our meetings too, I think tied with the revolving loan to make sure we're following all the rules of that. One thing that he did present to us, or said they did do a good study of moving the outlet farther downstream, and it just did not seem to have any benefit.
I think it benefited the phosphorus, but
Phosphorus,
not the
ammonia.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that would be, you know, that has a lot of cost to it.
Yeah.
So at this point, it doesn't look like an option. I'm sure we'll continue to talk about it, but unfortunately, that didn't change the ammonia, because the ammonia is looked at in the middle of the summer when the flows are really low, and that's, you know, a difficult time. You're not going to get more flow if you move downstream, and they looked quite a ways downstream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well just stick it in the lake. We're that far down. So.
Yep.
So that's that. Anything else on?
Staff issues, we've had someone that's been out sick in the highway department, so we're short-staffed again there. And we, in the water and wastewater department, we have someone out on military leave, so we've been working with ways to spread out the job responsibilities, and we've helped out in different areas. We also met with a firm that provides backup coverage, and so they're going to be meeting with the guys tomorrow morning and training on the system, and so that they can provide backup support on the weekend, like weekend duty and for filling for vacation and sick time and things as needed. It's a local company, so right nearby.
We could use the help, so hopefully it works out.
Yep. So we've been challenged with different staffing issues, but we're working our way through it.
Hey, the sidewalk got plowed pretty quickly, I thought, the last storm, and so the sidewalk equipment's repaired, and
Yep, there's still challenges just with the weather too, and up through Thistle Hill has been challenging. It's a challenging area anyway, just the topography and as the sidewalks with our plow being able to fit in different sections and the steepness of it. So there's certainly still challenges, but you guys did address that in the budget as far as starting to save towards a replacement, and it would be nice to be able to retain this as a backup to our current plow. So we're continuing to work on that.
Okay, any questions for Renee?
Any updates on the well?
The well is, so I've been working with, I talked to Cindy Sprague, so she'll be starting her part in the spring. We'll get some more information. They haven't done the full testing yet of all of the well, so.
When do they test it for potential pollutants?
I think that's something that we need to clarify getting soon, relatively soon, before we go to, because we want to, before we put a lot more time and investment in it, and we want to kind of have that information.
Check. I'm not sure how
Right.
much they
Well,
really
the one
looked
thing
at.
is that I don't think that we test for any kind of agricultural contaminants like atrazine or glyphosate.
Yeah.
So, and I think it'd be good to make sure that those are not necessarily EPA standard tests that we need, but knowing the location of that.
Do you know whether we tested the other wells for those?
I don't think
I know
we did.
I know Cindy said there's a large amount of things that they do test for, because I had those concerns trying to make sure that all these.
And now some of the limits, and there's a lot more things they're starting to look at, and there's a lot of discussion about what the limits should be. So that would be.
But I think there aren't. There's certainly known pesticides that are used that are not on the EPA list.
Yeah.
So.
That would be a good discussion.
There's
for
certainly
sure.
concern
What she's
on a
planning
federal level
Right.
to
for what's
do,
being
because
Yeah, right, there's a lot of stuff that are being removed. so.
You know what I mean? So we should step that up for sure.
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Anything else?
I think
Do you
the
wanna
source
talk about-
protection, yeah,
see
you
if
can
I
talk.
could-
Oh, the well source.
Yeah, while
Source
we're on
protection
that
plan.
conversation, we are about to send out our Dear Neighbor letters for the source protection plan for wells 4 and 5 and Lyman Meadows. So, close to 350 letters will go out, along with, John's gonna go talk to a few of the businesses, so they're aware. They are regulated, but just so we can continue to develop those relationships.
People have a better understanding what they can do and can't do
Right,
in the water,
right.
in the areas near our wells.
Thank you for posting that.
Yeah, it's all on the Waterworks page currently. What she's gonna send out.
I
All
think
right.
that's it.
Great. Select board forum, and does anybody have anything? It's okay if you don't, but it's okay if you do. Oh, the search committee?
Yeah, we contacted the committee. We'll bring the names at our next meeting together forward, ahead of time, so you can
Okay.
look at them. It's all the names that we've talked about, that we've
Okay.
all sort of reached out on.
So you think you've got?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And so no surprise there. And
We've decided on the size of the committee?
yeah,
Okay.
kind of based on what's manageable and also, who said yes, to some degree.
Yeah.
We didn't want a 25 people committee, but we don't want a 3 committee,
Right.
so.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I'm anxious to see
So
that.
Marilee and I are gonna kind of firm that up and we'll have that for you.
Okay.
It sounds like we might have a meeting on Monday.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Next item is just to, go ahead.
I'll remind people about the Conservation Commission
Oh, yeah, this week,
gig
right?
party up at the Japrags on
February 10th,
the 10th, Sunday, at 3:30, I believe,
Oh, it's a
right?
Sunday.
3:30 to 7.
3:30 to 7. So, sounds like it's gonna be a good time. Stop up and see what they've got
Yeah.
going on.
Bonfire.
Bonfire, sleigh rides, hot chocolate.
I hope they have
Bring your
snow.
own cups. Yeah. All right, good. That was good. We can review the minutes.
Town
I'll take-
meeting, the warning's been posted online for
Yep.
folks.
Okay.
Yep.
Maybe the next meeting or the one after, we'll talk about town meeting. And I think we've prepared to discuss the budgets we worked through. And, probably not the 11th, but then must be the 18th. We probably should set aside some time just to discuss town meeting and what some of the logistics might be.
Yeah, we'll have another opportunity for questions and answers at the February 18th meeting as well. So we can pack the room for that discussion, I'm
I
sure.
thought you said we were gonna have another opportunity to have some more of that chicken soup.
If people would come to talk about the budget, I will make them chicken soup.
It was really good.
That's an enticement.
There we go.
There, I have one question. We have this bid ad out, for the sidewalk.
Yeah, oh, that's one other thing I want to talk about.
Which is, we have it posted through the 7th,
Yep.
in a couple
So
of
the
days.
bid opening
This
is
week.
on the 7th.
Yeah, it's on the 7th, so maybe you have something to comment,
yeah.
maybe you don't, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
so
thought I'd just
the
ask.
Village North sidewalk is what he's referring to, and that's the sidewalk project that we've been talking about for years and years, and it's finally going out to bid, so I think it might actually really happen in this current calendar year, which is exciting. I hate to jinx it, but, this is the furthest we've
Yeah.
ever gotten.
And it's probably, it's been planned since
Goes way back.
2000.
Way back. Yeah.
2006,
Yes.
2005, 2006.
Yeah, when they
So-
purchased the property,
Yeah.
I think is when it goes back to.
So that's good.
Or before.
And although it ends at Riggs Road, there is that trail that does go up and over, and it's a pretty nice trail. It was changed a little bit a couple of years ago to get a little bit out of the wetland on the far side. So
It's mowed and all
it's
that.
pretty good. Yeah, it's mowed and maintained.
People use it every day.
And it's a good little shortcut.
I think
So
the-
adding that sidewalk piece does make it a little bit more accessible for those who, from CVU, you could come right down that way.
The only deal breaker potentially could be is if the bids come in really high.
Yeah.
And then we need to reassess, and which makes me a little nervous with the tariffs and things that are going on right now, how that's going to impact our bids. So I'll update you. At 1 o'clock, we'll be opening them on Thursday, the 7th, so we'll see.
I can tell you from our business, a lot of things are up in the air because of that.
Right, yep,
It really is causing a lot of
yep.
angst.
So,
All right, so I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes
I'll make that motion.
with any changes we might have.
thank you for staying.
All right.
Thank you for staying.
Any
Discussion
on the minutes?
I found one letter that I think is missing. And that's all I found. On the second
Got
page.
your number, doesn't she?
Under Town Administrator Report, 1, 2, 3, 4th line down. Renee will be meeting with a service I think it needs an R, service provider for backup coverage.
Okay, any others? I will say, I did mark mine up last night, and then I forgot it at work, yeah. But they were mostly just typos. There wasn't any piece that I thought was critical to, I know, well, just wording, really. But, so I'm all right with it. Everybody else okay? So you got that one change?
Yeah.
So all those in favor of approving the minutes as adjusted, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so that motion's passed. We need a motion for the warrants.
Make a motion for the warrants to include payroll as submitted by the clerk.
Second.
All right, and I had a chance to review those. I thought we brought them out. Oh, I stuck them, I left them in there, yeah. Okay, so all those in favor of approving the warrants, including payroll, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and so that motion passed. And before we adjourn, I just will say, I always have difficulty going into executive session because it seems complicated, and even in Green Mountain Transit. And I have this cheat sheet here that I made a while ago. I got it all highlighted, and
Just a state statute.
it's right. It's all right there. It tells you what to do. And today I finally realized that it's out of order. So so when I get down to
So we have to
here,
redo this whole
and it
thing?
says, when the public body, you have to clearly state that blah blah blah, and you have to do the following. When I go here, it doesn't match, and now I'm like, oh, now it all makes sense. So all I need is a punch, and then
right.
I promise I won't have that constant confusion going into executive session.
Simply do this,
I
right?
could have just,
If you just put it up like that.
that helps. Okay.
Yeah. But then when you flip it over, it's there.
Yeah. So I just thought, I finally realized that today, thinking about going into executive session. So we'll
So-
get ready to warn a
So
meeting
you've just simplified executive session to some degree for
Yeah,
yourself, is what you're saying to the board. a little
now I
bit.
might understand it. So potentially we'll have a meeting on the 11th. I don't know that we'll have anything else on the agenda unless something comes up that we need to do.
Yeah, I mean, let me know. I know we're
Yeah.
wanting to do it at
That's the
7
question I was gonna
o'clock or.
ask, Because we've had a lot of meetings.
Yeah,
And
I
we're
know.
adding one.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that we could maybe
I haven't noticed that, Tom.
switch, there we
I already had it on my calendar. I mean, if we don't have one, it's a bonus.
Just a thought, if we don't have anything terribly pressing for the 18th, that we could
Yeah. put
push
it
to
on.
the 11th.
We'll take that under consideration, huh?
Oh, you mean
Yeah.
consolidate what would have been on the
Yeah.
18th
Yeah.
to the 11th? Okay.
Okay.
I think you ladies we all
Yeah.
deserve a little break, and when we're adding one,
Yeah, right. Another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
even Val over there.
Keeping her up at night.
She's here every night. She just shows up, and then if we have a meeting, then she has something to do.
So I have nothing else to do.
Yes,
All
it's
right.
the most exciting thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good thought. It's
Yeah.
been tiring. How did we do?
We're at 9:16. We had it scheduled for 9:10 to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to
6
adjourn.
minutes.
Okay. Seconded by Tom. All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. So we are adjourned.
Thank you.